Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good night to a lot of our audience. My name is George Duarte from Multitool Consulting. We are now starting a new Berry Talks of the month with Thomas and a new guest. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, George, and hello, everybody, to our audience. Another month has gone by, and another episode of Berry Talks is ready to go. Today, our colleague
Okay,
Sam is not with us. She will be joining us for the next episode. And today we are happy to host as a guest of Berry Talks Andres Armstrong. Most of you know Andres. He's executive director of the Chilean Blueberry Committee. Thanks, Andres, for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas and Jorge, for the opportunity of being in the Berry Talks. I know all the work you have been doing to promote and to make berries, and especially blueberries, in the knowledge of people. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Andres, can you quickly introduce yourself to our audience and say some words about who you are and what you are doing in your role in the Blueberry Chilean Committee, and why this such important committee was created, and when, a little bit of history.
Yes, well, the committee was created almost 15 years ago. I was coming back from an experience in Brazil in another industry, but coming back, it came out with the opportunity of organizing this committee. At that point, some companies in Chile thought that it was time that they needed to collaborate, to work together in some aspects in order to put the industry into the future. At that time, we are talking in 2008, 2009, the Chilean blueberry industry was growing, and it was growing by the scope of that time very fast. So companies felt that they needed to work in developing new markets to host this whole new production which we knew it was going out from Chile because the plantings were there. So very soon the production was coming. So somehow the idea of the committee was to create a market for all that fruit that was going on. So this was the intention of the beginning of a few companies. We created a program, a strategic program, and invited all the exporters to join in these efforts. And we were very successful, I guess, in the beginning. We were almost 20 companies that represented more than 90% of our exports. So I would say that pretty much of the Chilean blueberry industry joined in this effort to expanding market and to prepare somehow the markets to our growing production in the future. So this is how it began. I think it was, for me personally, a very challenging position. Chile has or had at that time a very huge or wide scope of growers in a model that we have lots of growers, and then we have the exporting companies that put all this fruit together. So it had also like a social aspect. I always feel like the work that the committee has been doing to create new opportunities for all these growers in Chile from all sizes, from small and medium and big companies. I always feel that the work of the committee could be very important in the results of these growers and in their personal lives.
Yes, you were talking about cooperating in different areas, and what all triggered that was basically looking at the markets and the needs of the Chilean industry to find new markets for the product, which was in the pipeline and will be coming soon. has that developed also into other roles of the committee besides marketing and the research of new markets?
No, of course, Thomas, that was, I would say, our main focus in the beginning. And in 14 years, we certainly have to switch and to adapt to new market conditions. And when we began, there was also a focus in quality and in in the safe food safety of our fruit. And that's still the case, but we are now like more focused in the productivity of our industry. That somehow has switched a little bit in terms of the effort that we are doing in terms of marketing. Somehow all the changes that have been done in the last few years, in which we have like fully year-round supply, and that has helped a lot to develop the consumption. So now our role as a committee is more focused in providing better fruit into this market, to help our growers renew their varieties, providing information, to investigate the best technologies in post-harvest. This is something that Chile has been working like forever, because we are probably the most faraway country supplying the Northern Hemisphere markets. And we have always worked with post-harvest technologies. And this is something that is always changing, that is always in an evolution. So we need to be on top of that technologies. And that is part of the work of the committee. And also something that since last season, we were able to somehow help coordinate to provide better logistics services. After the COVID years, we have huge problems with logistics, and that was not exclusive for Chile, but for all the countries that are participating in the world markets. So we had the opportunity to help coordinate services that move our fruit faster to, in the case of blueberries, to the US. And we have also the opportunity of Chile to work with different commodities. For example, Chile is the world's biggest cherry export, and that is going into Asia. And the logistics services for cherries are also helping blueberries move fast to those markets. And in the case of the US, blueberries are joining forces with cherries and other fruits to provide the volume to have these services. So yes, we started very focused in marketing and quality, and now we are more focused in productivity, variety renewal, and improving logistic services.
Thank you for the answer. You already answered the question that we have followed for you, but I will redefine it. You have been the face of the Chilean producers and growers, especially in this case dedicated to blueberries, in the last 15 years. And a personal question: why you decided to come out from a different industry and take this leading role in the blueberry industry? What was your challenges in that moment, and what are the challenges now?
Well, as I mentioned, Chile is a very small country, but it happens to be very strong in some in some industries, like for example copper, or you go to the wine industry, the salmon industry, wood-based products, and also in fruit. Chile is the largest fresh fruit exporter in the world. So we are in some industry like top 10 players in the world, and that was the case of blueberries, and it's still the case in blueberries. Though at that time we were like the biggest blueberry exporter. Now we have been going back a little bit because other countries have been growing, but I think it was challenging, and it was something that could have an impact. A real impact in the country and in the people that were working growing blueberries. if we were able to promote and to create new markets for all this fruit that was produced by thousands of growers in Chile, I think that was very challenging and very motivating for me to get involved in this industry, and also to promote collaboration in today's market and in today's world. There's a lot of competing between companies, and I think that you are able to find aspects in which the companies could collaborate to the better development of an industry. I think that is also very it's good when you're able to do that, and I think in Chile we have been able to do that, and not only in blueberries. The Chilean Blueberry Committee is part of the Chilean Fresh Fruit Exporters Association, and we're working as a whole to make this industry a better industry for our exports, but also for our growers. And this has an impact, a social impact in terms of labor development, the income of the people in Chile. So I think this is a very important role, as I mentioned, not only in blueberries, but also in other fresh commodities that we produce and export from Chile. Most of our of these industries, in which I tell you that Chile plays a role in the world markets, are based and have been developed in order to go to the export markets. Chile is a very small country. It's not a big consumption country. So if you want to be in the big leagues of an industry, you need to be focused on the exports. So that was the reason that I felt that it was very interesting for me to get involved in this industry and take the Chilean blueberry flag and move it around the world and try to help increase development and increase the lives of the people growing blueberries in Chile.
I have a question regarding what you said in terms of new markets and the role Chile had 15 years ago or 10 years ago. I think that we have seen at a very quick pace growing the number of countries which are growing blueberries nowadays. And we are under the impression that there are more countries growing blueberries than countries eating blueberries. So what is your recipe for increasing the consumption? Will it come more from a higher penetration in the countries who already have a certain level of consumption, like in Europe, for example, or will you be able to increase even more the countries where the consumption is already very strong, with the penetration above 50%, like UK, the States, or Germany? Or are you concentrating or looking at also countries where the penetration is still low, like Italy or France, where blueberries are not really fully known or exploited? So where do you see the future growth coming from?
Well, I think it's both, Thomas. I think it's both new market, like low penetration countries, but also countries in which the consumption is higher. You have the case of the US, which has been like the highest per capita consumption country for years, and it's still growing. There's still investment in that market, and that is growing. And also countries like we began in China, I would say 10 years ago, where the consumption was very low, at least in the counter season supply. And now you see more and more blueberries going into that market, also Korea. And in the case of Europe, I totally agree with you. In countries like Italy, and this is why I really like the work you do. I know you do a work in many countries, but somehow it's more reflected in Italy as a new potential market. Not not long ago, we started doing some promotions in France, which was nearly known blueberries. And now you go to supermarkets and you see blueberries every week being sold there. So I think it's both. In the beginning, when we began, it was like the traditional production countries like the US and Northern Europe, and then you had Chile on the other side and Argentina. So we provided all together with Argentina at that time most of the counter-season supply, and that was not enough for a year-round supply. There was like a peak during the northern hemisphere summer, and then a peak in the southern hemisphere summer that was coming out in Chile, and there was lack of supply in between those peaks. So lack of supply meant higher prices. So that was the big incentive to develop these new varieties that are being grown in different parts of the country. So you're moving closer to the Equator, to Peru, or to Mexico, or to Morocco, or the southern part of China. And you were able to really have a year-round supply in more stable volumes. So this is helping develop the consumption very much together with promotions. We did a lot of productions. In the beginning, we worked together with Argentina and Uruguay. We joined forces. That was an interesting experience. We did a campaign that was called Blueberries from the South, that was funded by Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. And then we were able to have some funding from our government, from ProChile, more funding for promotions, and then we moved to like Chilean own promotion, and this is how we went to the US, to Europe, and especially to Asia in the last years. I think at this point, a new effort with all this growing production that you have mentioned, Thomas, coming out from this country, a new promotional effort must be done. Most of the blueberry promotion is being done in the US now, with the USHBC and the assessment that you need to pay there when you go to that market. So that's like the biggest budget for blueberry promotion that is available in the world, and part of that is also being used to like develop international markets coming out from that program. So I think this is the effort that we need to do now. I would certainly love to join forces with other countries that are now in the world markets to invest more in market development, in consumption, and help move this industry forward.
Yes, I think that the blueberry industry is a real inspiration for the fresh produce industry in terms of being able to collect so many forces and direct them into one direction, which is developing consumption. I think that blueberries are really unique from that point of view, and probably the next thing to do could be to do this, like you were mentioning, these global wide campaigns, which should really, where the different growers, committees, or whatever you want to call them, join forces and push really hard. Because what you're doing from Chile then eventually gives an advantage to the growers of the Northern Hemisphere. It sounds a little bit odd, but it all works in circles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me interrupt you there, because even though what is being done in the US with the Blueberry Council is helping consumption not only in the US year round, but other places in the world, there's an investment also in research of new benefits of blueberries for health, for example, which are those could be used by everyone around the world. And that is being done year after year after year. And good news about health benefits of blueberries are coming out I would say not every year, because those research takes time, but they're in a continuing basis of doing that work on behalf of the industry.
One more question about marketing. You, with your, say, blueberry hat on, are you worried about what's going on with the cherries, or is that another good opportunity for Chile or even for the blueberries?
Well, you have the good part of that is that for using my Chilean hat, is that with all these logistic coordinations, it's always good to have commodities on the same week, because we have a lot of other commodities, but during the year and our window that comes from I would say mid-November to mid-February, going out from Chile, we have some weeks that we have the same weeks with the cherries, and that helps a lot in terms of providing logistic services. It has been working to Asia. It worked last season to the US, and we see in the future we could do something similar for Europe. But on the other hand, yes, there's a lot of attention, especially in China when cherries arrive. There's a lot of volume going out from there, arriving there from Chile in the same weeks with blueberries. So there's a little bit of competition for the for the pocket of the consumer at that time. But the market is very big. I think that blueberries have a different positioning in terms of health benefits, which is in Asia especially drives consumption a lot. So I think we need to keep moving into that direction, and we have, even though there's somehow competition between these two commodities, they have different positionings that could put blueberries in a very strong position.
Thank you for the answer. I have here a few questions that have already been answered, part of them. You've been traveling all over the world, also promoting the blueberries, bring the Chilean fruits to other markets, and at the same time, you are evolving as a committee. What is in your vision now? What led the committee to be stronger and stronger? The commitment from the partners, from the members, and what you can expect from this point of today in the next 5 years in terms of evolution of the market, and also including that we are facing a lot of developments not only in South America but also Eastern Europe, new countries popping up, north of Africa, the Middle East, and also the Caucasus. We hear every month new plantations forecast, so the blueberry word is spread out. What do you think is going to be the trend, and what make the committee stronger and stronger year after year?
Yeah, well, George, this what is happening now in terms of growing production areas is changing the market landscape very, very, very fast. And so the word for the countries that were here before, like I would say Chile, the US, Canada, is to adapt to these new market conditions. This is our focus now. How Chile adapts to this new market environment, and variety renewal is one of them, because when we started and when production started in the US and Canada too, the varieties available were not the ones that we have today. So we need to adapt to this new trend in terms of varieties. It's more urgent for Chile to do that, but I would say the growers in the US and Canada would would have to do that too, because they're receiving a lot of fruit from Peru and from Mexico, from these new genetics, and they also need to adapt. So if you ask me for a word for this situation and this moment in the industry, and also looking into 5 years, is to adapt. And what we have been doing to adapt to these new market conditions with our growers in Chile is to work on the varieties. This first to understand which varieties are the ones that have been proved not to work in today's conditions. We used to have a lot of air freight, for example, that is not the case anymore. And you had varieties that were able to be flown and they were performing well. But when you put that into a ship that takes 2 or 3 weeks to get into the market, they don't last that long. So the first step, what we have been doing here, is to recognize which are the varieties that are performing well and which are the varieties that don't. So our variety mix is changing and is improving. Firstly, because we're moving out of our exports, and when I'm talking exports, I'm talking fresh exports, because part of that production is moving mainly to the process industry. So when we began 15 years ago, like I would say 5% of the production was in the process industry. Now we're about 40%. And why do we have 40%? Because of the varieties and because the ability to harvest this production. So this is the first step. And the second step is to work with the new varieties. And we have planted different orchards around the country to prove which are the best varieties working on each area, in order to provide growers with the better information, so they have they can make a more informed decision on which varieties to plant. There's been a lot of trial and how do you say that, trial and error, but growers can't afford to do that anymore. So we are helping them to make more informed decisions upon their varieties. So I think in the future we will have a more renewed variety mix coming out of Chile. First, because the ones we have been left out, but also the ones that are being planting now in the country. Approximately 20% of the plantings in Chile are new varieties that will start giving more and more production in the coming years into the fresh industry. We have like some projects of nurseries, big nurseries in Chile that are betting in the future of Chile as a blueberry production country of the high chill varieties. So I think that in the future we will have probably a more small volume that we had today. We're not anymore in the race of volume. We were, like in the past, looking like what the growth of the Chilean industry and some season to the other. We're not in that race anymore. We're more in the race of quality and in the race of improving our product arriving into the market. So also with the logistic services to shorten the transit times, and always working with post-harvest technologies to improve the shelf life of our berries. And don't forget also productivity and competitiveness. This is also something that blueberry growers have to need to have, not only in Chile but all around the world. It's not only about quality but also about productivity. So this is our focus, and I think this is where we want to be in 5 years. Chile being still in the market with a much better, consistent product, and finding the place there.
I have one question, Andres, regarding more the short term. We have spoken about the long term, the next 5 years, and so on. But I think that the berry world is looking at Chile in these weeks for the supply of blueberries for the next months. This year, everybody knows that Peru is struggling, unfortunately, due to this situation of El Nino, which is impacting very heavily on the volumes. My question is, how is Chile preparing for this new season? What can you tell us in terms of your calendar and in terms of the volumes you are preparing for the different areas in the world? Because of course you will have strategic plans for Asia, for the States, for Europe, and in such a situation where everybody is looking for produce, I think you will have to take your decisions and look at the market, at the different markets in different ways.
Yes, well, it's pretty unfortunate, but what is happening in Peru, the impact of El Nino, it's been very strong there, and has changed very much how things are moving now in the world industry. But the good news when I see what is happening is that the demand of growth. This is proving that demand for blueberries have grown in the past 5 years enormously, and today we have a lower volume compared to last year. But if you go back, it would be like 3 years ago, and the price is not that of 3 years ago. So that is showing that blueberry demand and interest have grown significantly during these years, and the reason for that is also the fact that we have countries like Peru growing their production, like Mexico growing their production, Morocco filling all the gaps during the year and providing consistent supply during the year. I think that has been very, very important. But what we are looking out of Chile at this time with the situation is that we think we have an opportunity to show our customers that they would need Chile in the future, and we're working with our growers and our exporters to take this opportunity to show the world that we could provide a very good product, a very good and consistent product, and we don't want to get a little bit dizzy with the situation and start sending fruit that the market really doesn't want. And I know that there's pressure for that because people need the fruit. But what I have seen now is a lot more air freights that we didn't have in the past, and that provides the opportunity to put fruit very fast in the market and with no quality problems. But this is what we are trying to move out from Chile, to really keep our focus in the quality, in the best varieties we have, to prove the world that they will need Chile in the future, and Chile could provide the value they need. This is and again we need to see this is the situation today, but we will need to see what will happen during the peak season of Chile. There's a lot of speculation about if Peru will recover the volumes going into the end of the year, and that could be in the middle part of our season. So we need to be careful of what the situation would be in a month or two ahead, and to be very careful of what the fruit we put into the market.
Okay, thank you for your answer. It's a long discussion about what's going to be the season, especially this year with the El Nino. And you mentioned something that through our conversation is the strategies from Chile to change and adapt. And one of the things for sure is the post-harvest that you mentioned. Being such a country that is influencing the export of blueberries, can you identify during these seasons that you are head of the committee, see all the evolution, what is the knowledge and technology that Chile also exports with this blueberry export? Because the industry grows together from every part of the layers and also technology. What can you enlighten or highlight as technology that Chile provides to export or to develop more in the last 15 years for the post harvest and the quality
Yes,
conservation?
yes. Well, there's a lot of growers from Chile growing in other countries, including Peru and Mexico and Morocco. So there's a knowledge that all these people have growing blueberries in Chile for a long time. They're bringing to those new to those new places. But there's also consultants that are working in the different countries, especially in post-harvest and cold chain management from the orchards going into the packing houses and moving forward. And also the different technologies in container, the control atmosphere, modify atmosphere, the use of SO2, for example, plastic bags. We have trial a lot of different plastic bag to reduce dehydration and firmness of the fruit. So all these technologies, and we have selected the best ones to extend the shelf life of the fruit. Not only for Chile, but certainly this is somehow moving to the other countries as a know-how extension. So this is the most that I think that Chile could bring to the other countries in terms of managing the fruit in containers, in cold chambers, in the ships, and so on.
Yes.
Yes, that's for sure. One thing that Chile has exported a lot of the knowledge through consultancy throughout the world and other countries. As several examples, especially in the Northern Hemisphere and also in other countries. I think, Thomas, if there's anything that you want to go deep on the discussion, you can do it now, or otherwise we can wrap up, and you can do the final conclusions.
Yes, I'd like to have a final question regarding the strategic role of northern highbush and southern highbush blueberries. 10 years ago, we weren't really that interested in the southern highbush, but in all honesty, this is really changing the shape of the global blueberry industry. What do you think from that point of view? In terms of the Chilean blueberries, northern highbush, how this is going to impact the development also of the new varieties, like you were talking. Can you see as much varietal innovation in the northern highbush as we can see in the southern highbush, or is there anything you want to tell to our friends, the breeders?
Well, definitely, Thomas, that the low chills varieties that you would say southern highbush, no, were the ones that had more demand some years ago, because this is where the supply was short. So the market and the world needed more production in between the seasons from the southern hemisphere between the northern hemisphere. So that was the bigger incentive for breeders to develop, because there was a more need of plants because of supply, and also because this is where the better prices were at the time. So this is the reason why those varieties develop faster compared to the high chill varieties, and this is the situation that we are now. But high chill varieties have taken a little bit longer, but they're coming. We know that there's a bunch of new opportunities that the breeders are bringing to the traditional, I would say, production countries like Chile and the US and Canada to renew their varieties with this high chill, and with the sizes and the firmness that the market needs, together with the flavor. I think that could be in the future. Varieties will still be bigger and firmer, but with the difference of the high chill varieties that could provide a better flavor. If you have the size and the bloom and the firmness, then the flavor of the fruit could be a point of difference. And this is what we think that the opportunities for the future countries like Chile and what the traditional production countries could have. And there's a lot of new genetic materials coming into the market that will be available in the coming years.
Yes, if we think that in the States and Canada, there are still varieties around in big volumes, which are probably 60 or 80 years old, probably there is more markets for new plants there is in any low chill area in the world.
Well, they're creating that need because I mean, if you are a grower but as I mentioned before, for Chile it's a must because we need to be in the world markets. If you go to the US and a grower there now sees that the market is full of new genetic materials coming from Mexico, from Peru, in weeks in which they could have the opportunity to extend their production. That's not the case anymore. So if they want to stay in that market, in an open market, of course, they will need to adapt and also renew. So they will also have this opportunity to renew with the new genetic material that could provide, besides the size and the firmness and all that, a better flavor for the customer.
Or we could just create another market segment, which is the good old blueberry varieties.
Well, what we have done here, Thomas, with that is mainly the frozen market. Even though the frozen market also has some but variety concerns. It's not all the varieties, and also more and more growers going into the frozen market need to be extremely competitive. They could do a very good business, but they need to be extremely competitive. They need to, machine harvest and so on to lower their costs and make a business out of that market segment. But yes, and then we have our domestic. You mentioned in the beginning, they have not a lot of countries consuming. There are a lot of countries producing, but we, as an exporters association, we started doing promotions in Chile last year, and we don't have a measure of per capita consumption, but Chile is growing more and more in consumption, as there is in Argentina, in Peru, and we are importing blueberries from some other parts of the world now to our domestic market. That shows how the interest of blueberries is growing everywhere in the world. Even though we are not a big country, we're only 20 million people, and so it's not such a big market. But there's a lot of interest in blueberries. Other commodities, like for example avocados, Chile has a very high per capita consumption. I think that with blueberries we could do something similar.
Excellent. Any question from your side, George?
I'm just wondering where we go with the breeding on the northern Irish, because this is a really a question mark that a lot of people have in recent years. Actually, that's a discussion I always promote when I meet a breeder, where we are with the high chill, because we still have that requirement of changing the varieties. Of course, the Southern Bush changed completely the game, especially with all these new countries offering off-season, especially for the European market. But I would ask something to Andres. If you have a new country coming in, what kind of advice, or just a country like Portugal, Italy, what kind of advice you would give if there's no committee or organization that really promotes the blueberries in a group, in a strong movement, because that's what we need also to potentiate the internal consumption, especially in countries in Europe. I've seen the last years in Portugal growing. We have now reached 17,000 tons. The last years we are stable around these values. Being consumption is increasing, but and now we are also suffering the same thing in Chile. We are renovating some varieties that we can still renovate, but not on a level that Chile requires. You still do a lot of mistakes. If you have any advice for new countries that are coming to the market, what would be your advice in terms to look to and approach the blueberry industry?
Yeah, well, I would say today's market needs two basic things. One is quality of the fruit. I think that is a must, because you will be competing with production from many places that are producing very good fruit. So that is one first thing, and the other one is productivity, because the growing production is pushing. Is creating a market that is more stressed in terms of margins. So you need to look also for productivity, and be very well aware of the possibilities that you have to harvest in a very good way. So you need to find the weeks and a very good coordination of your production in order to have the harvesting capacity. And talking of harvesting, being very well aware of what is going on with machine harvest for fresh. There's a lot of interest in the industry, in the developing in machine harvest. Some places I know they're starting to do that, and especially if you're closer to the market. For a country like Chile, it's more difficult. It would take, I think, longer. But if you're growing your blueberries in Portugal or in Italy, and you're serving the European market, in which you're very close to that, you might have a system, because it's not only about machine harvest. It's about the variety that has the capacity to adapt to bruising. The packing houses that are packing the fruit with doing less harm to that, and then the transit times. So it's a whole system that will provide you the productivity and the quality of the fruit. So I would say variety, productivity, quality, and harvesting with this twist on what could happen in the near future with the machine harvest. That could be a break. How do you say that? Break technology that could change the game very drastically when that happens.
Excellent. Thanks, Andres. It's now time to wrap up a little bit this conversation. We have covered many topics and also different time frames, because we were talking about the very short term, because there is a new season coming, and it looks an interesting season for the Chilean blueberries. The markets are looking forward to receive the fruit, and there will be a strong demand. You are saying there will be also a temptation to supply any kind of fruit because the market is there. And yes, definitely. We hope that Chile will be brave enough to play the game in such a way that everybody will be able to say, yes, Chile is definitely a source we cannot miss. Even in a difficult year, they are supplying excellent standard. And thus showing that the plan you started a couple of years ago of renewing your industry and like you were saying, to adapt to new and challenging market situations is working in the right direction. And I think this year you have a golden opportunity to show your commitment to the markets and that the committee and all the players involved are going in one direction. And like you were saying, that direction is driven by the quality. Quality means happy customer. And in many cases in these last years, good quality with the good genetics means also a better productivity because better varieties perform better from different point of views. So it all goes in the right direction. I think that what Chile has been doing starting 15 years ago, investing very heavily in promoting new markets and promoting the consumption of blueberries is now appreciated by all the players worldwide. Everybody is taking advantage of the initial push you were giving to the consumption in the northern hemisphere. And in all honesty, we have been taking a big benefit from all your investments, and we must be very, very grateful to that. We all hope that your attitude in developing new markets and new consumption will guide the industry on a global basis, both the individual companies, but also associations of growers, which, like George was saying, are not there in every single country. It's in more and more countries. It's working very well, but some countries are still missing the point.
There's an effort, definitely an effort there by the International Blueberry Organization, the IBO, that have been helping countries to organize themselves and join the organization. So that is something that we also created some years ago, the IBO, as a body that could help develop this industry. And part of the work was having the countries organizing themselves to collaborate. And I think that is very important. And the role of the IBO in that sense has been very important too.
Yes, I agree. And I think that blueberries will still play a leading role and be, like I was saying before, inspirational to the whole fresh produce industry because we have seen that consumers like it. And I think this trend will not stop in the near future. And this is why we are all here, why we are all passionate about blueberries and why we keep talking about this exciting product every month with our guests here at Berry Talks. So I would like to say thank you to George and to Andres. I leave the last few words to George before we say goodbye to our audience.
Okay, thank you very much for the wrap up. It's as usual, we always improvise a lot on our script and according with the flow that we get from our invitees. So Andres, once again, thank you for being here with us. You are an inspiration in terms of leadership. That's one of the roles that I think you dress pretty well, and there's a remark also for the countries to look to the level of organization that Chile has brought to the table once they started to unify the committee. and is also an inspiration for a lot of countries to drink the knowledge from your organization. And I want you also to thank you for the time you spend with us. It's a great honor to meet you again after 11 years. I've seen it in the first presentation in my country, and I see you still thrive and being strong on behind the organization you represent. And also, this is the wrap up from our 14th episode from Berry Talks. That's why we are here. We are passionate people about the berry industry, and once again, blueberries is on the top of the table for discussion. I hope you see you in the next episode. Thank you, Thomas, for joining this project, and keep supporting us and together in this berry talks. And once again, thank you very much, Andres, for being with us.
Thank you
Bye
very
bye.
much for the opportunity and for the work you've done for the blueberry industry. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.